welcome in everyone to this episode of Craze's Corner. We let you guys vote on the Fantasy Football Awards on my story, and we're going to be breaking those down later. But first, let's get into some news. First, we have all of the coaching changes as well as GM changes. So the Vikings got rid of Mike Zimmer as well as their GM Spielman. The Dolphins, in a surprising move, fired Brian Flores. The Giants GM David Gettleman retired, and they did let go of Joe Judge as the head coach. They're rumored to be letting their next GM pick the coach. And then the Bears fired Matt Nagy and Pace. So we have some teams cleaning house. Lots of guys who are definitely looking for jobs. I think Flores will get a job this year as well. And then we have Matt Ryan. It came out that he will likely be back with the Falcons next year. Arthur Smith wants Matt Ryan there. That was a big reason that he's still there, and I don't think they're going to trade him. They're not going to cut him. So Matt Ryan will be the quarterback for the Falcons. A lot of people are like, oh, we could go to the Steelers when Ben retires, that kind of thing. Matt Ryan's not going anywhere. And then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Richard Sherman has been placed on IR. This is his second stint on IR, which effectively ends his season. But the Bucs they opened the practice window for Leonard Fournette, Levante David, and Giovanni Bernard. So this is big news as Ronald Jones is not likely to play this week. So there is a chance that maybe Bernard or Fournette can jump in and help that run game. They're going up against Eagles, who rested their players last week. That's a completely different situation that I didn't quite agree with. The situation where Jason Kelce played his one snap, stood there, kept his streak alive, didn't help his team. Jalen Hurts, he's going to come out. I think the offense is going to look a little rusty, and Tampa should get out to an early lead. But let's not get into that quite yet. You guys think the Bucs have what it takes to win the Super Bowl this year? Let us know using the Media app. The Media app is a virtual press conferencing app that allows you to host your own virtual press conference and then share it to all your social media platforms. So let us know. Use the app. Let us know, do you think the Bucs can make it to the Super Bowl? Do they have what it takes to win another one? If not, let us know who is your pick, and you can check it out. It's on the Google Play and App Store. And now let's welcome in our guests. We're going to talk a little bit about our coaching changes. We have Zach, a Dolphins fan. We have Will, a Vikings fan. Let's have Zach start us off here. What are your thoughts on the Miami Dolphins firing Brian Flores?
Yeah, as a guy, you probably want to go out there and smash, some heads for. Brian Flores is probably the guy to lead the charge, right? It seems like a total, coach that you can definitely get behind as a team, especially when you start the season, like 1-7, right? But at the end of the day, it's the same awful product on the field that we've seen now for the past few years. It's just mediocrity at its finest. 9-8, that would be our record for the first 17-game season. But I think, like I told you before the show, the GM is the problem. Somehow, how he survives the chopping block is crazy. But I would love to hear your guys' perspective. You got some shaking up with your team as well.
Well, we're currently interviewing for our OC position. I'm not sure quite why. Matt Rule still has a job. As Will knows, we're interviewing Lil Kubiak there. Not sure why. We've also been linked to like Bill O'Brien. I really have no idea which direction we're going to go with our offensive coordinator position, but Will has two positions to fill on his team now. So what are your thoughts on the Vikings head coaching opportunity as well as the general manager?
But I think Spielman and Zimmer did in their careers, they did an okay job. Didn't win a Super Bowl, but it really weren't any really bad seasons, and were usually competitive. So there's that. But the last couple of weeks with Zim was just really like, you knew it was time to separate. Those remarks about Mond each
That was
week.
great.
And I'll be honest with you, not getting Justin Jefferson the ball at the end of that game, and then his comments after the game, wins matter, not records.
Right.
I think it shows he's out of touch with players. And I know everybody thinks he's going to be a defensive coordinator, and I think it could happen if Dallas has an opening. But I'm not sure. I think that just in this day and age in the NFL, you can't be that guy. And then Eric Kendricks did his interview with the media the day that Zim and Spielman were fired, and he said the Vikings need to stop having it. I'm paraphrasing, but he said the Vikings need to stop having an organization built on fear. And it'll be interesting to see how it shapes out. Look, after this season and how they underperformed, and they really weren't a team. They were just a collective of some good players, some average players, some marginal players. But it'll just be nice to have an off season where you think, okay, well, maybe they're going to turn it around. And I think the Wolves understand that this is probably their last shot. And the Viking fans have been pretty loyal. They got that stadium. They show up. They sell that stadium out. I think the Viking fans are pretty indifferent right now. And so they better get this right. They better get the GM first, and they better let that GM get a coach and then figure out what they're going to do. It'll be interesting to watch. I don't have any hard feelings as them and Spielman, but it was time for them both to go.
Yeah, I agree. I do kind of agree with Zim saying, I think players are over, they're making too much out of these records nowadays.
Yeah.
Watching the games last weekend, like I said before, when I was talking about the news, having Jason Kelce come in for the one snap, stand there, Devonta Smith until he got the record. Same thing with Jamar Chase. And to me, that's really not what getting these records is about. If you're going to play, at least play. Like when Jason Kelce came in, he snapped the ball and he literally stood there just to keep his streak alive. And to me, it's not really giving it all for your team. I think the Eagles made a stupid decision not playing their starters. I think it's going to come back to haunt them in the playoffs because, they're not like, it's not like they're the 1 seed, the 2 seed or anything like that. You saw the Packers come out. They played their starters. They didn't play well or whatever. They ended up losing that game. But they were out there. And if you do take too much time off, especially when you're going to be the underdog going into Tampa Bay, trying to go up against Tom Brady. And I've made a post about it, and all the Eagles fans were all crying that I was, saying like they're pretty much done. I don't think they have a chance anymore against the Buccaneers. And I didn't agree with the way they played that out. And then coming on to Sunday, watching all the other players do the same thing. I'd like to get your thoughts on, do you agree with the coaches playing the players so they get the records and pulling them? The Eagles situation?
I think I'm going to say real quick, Jefferson played his ass off this season. And the first half, I don't know if you got to watching it. The first half, it was a Kubiak special with Zim and with Cousins. Like the Vikings just couldn't do anything. They weren't getting Jefferson the ball. And he never lost his cool. I think he was honestly the best team player, focused on team and winning this year for the Vikings. And to be that close, to be 17 yards away, and this guy didn't give up all season. Didn't talk bad, didn't give up. Honestly, you got to think Jefferson's sitting there looking at these other offenses around the league and thinking, imagine if I was in that offense, I'd have 2,000 yards. And for the coach, it was over 2 minutes left in that game. He was 17 yards away. That was a deliberate FU to him. And I actually think it sealed his fate with the ownership. And I actually think it's going to hurt him around the league. I get the older guys like him and they say they play with him. These young guys, I'm not going to put up with a guy like that that's constantly in your face, constantly can't celebrate a good moment. And it was such the epitome of a coach that even when the Vikings win, if you ever saw any of the post-game locker room speeches, he was always, they had just come back and win a game. Yeah, they struggled. Maybe they shouldn't have against the Bears or even the Lions. But to go in that locker room after your team's on this high and to walk in there and say, like, guys don't have to be this hard. You could be better. It's like a guy that's clueless on how to communicate with players in this day and age. And there's a reason why the Vikings every year it's getting a little bit worse. And so, but I still think you owe it to a player like Jefferson who played his ass off all season to give him that chance. And they didn't do it.
Yeah. I think like the perfect, you're talking about knowing how to communicate, but you still have to be hard with these players. And I think the perfect coach when you're talking about that is going to be Mike Tomlin. Seeing him dancing in the locker room, something you normally don't see from him. He's always hard on the guys and things like that. But at the end of the day, he's still going to have some fun. But Zach, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you brought it up earlier. Was it Kellen Mond is the quarterback that he was talking about in the press conference?
Yeah.
If that wasn't a sign that he was on the way out, I don't know what else was. It's about as straightforward as you can get at a press conference, which you respect, right? He's definitely that coach that like in the '90s was like this guy's he's a coach's coach. But now these guys, man, they don't put up with any like they don't really want to be coached. They're so good now. They come so polished in the NFL. They almost really don't even need someone to harp on them as much anymore. So yeah, I can understand why they want the records. In this day and age, these guys are their brands. So if you can slap a record on your card or your football card or whatever, your NFTs or things like that, I can see why they want the little extra bonuses. But it's a new age for sports, man. It's the players, they run it now, which rightfully so. They're the one providing the product, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, I just had a problem with like the Eagles, the way they handled it. Devonta Smith played like a drive, he got his record, then he sat. Like to me, that's different than Gronk. He wasn't going for a record, but they were going for his $1 million bonus or whatever.
Yep.
That
No, I
makes
agree.
sense to me.
Yep.
Perfectly fine. He'd already played the first half and a bit. That to me is different than going out there, getting your record, and then completely abandoning your team. But let's get into the fantasy awards that we let you guys vote for. Last week, Zach wasn't here, but we discussed our picks for these awards. So Zach's obviously going to get to give his thoughts today. We're going to start with the MVP award, the LaDainian Tomlinson Trophy. I'm going to read out each of the nominees as well as how many votes they received, and then we will discuss. So Cooper Kupp got 456 votes, followed closely, or not really closely, by Jonathan Taylor with 286. Najee Harris had 17. Debo had 8. And then we had Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Amon-Ra St. Brown with 1 vote each. So Cooper Kupp took this. To me, I thought it was going to be a lot closer, but he by far took this. I think it's got to be mostly because of his draft position, the fact that he was on a lot of championship winning rosters. I really think that, I probably put Taylor there. I know Will had Najee as his MVP, but Zach, what are your thoughts on these rankings, with it being Kupp, Taylor, and then Najee Harris followed by Debo?
This would be, if you were to ask me personally to answer this is probably the exact answer I'd give you. I would go Kupp first and then Taylor to follow right behind it. The difference being Taylor was a first round pick. Kupp, I don't know, was he a fifth round pick? So for that reason right there, I mean, and what he did, Triple Crown, I mean, this the perfectly named trophy, LaDainian Tomlinson, going to Cooper Kupp is perfect, because if you remember what LaDainian Tomlinson was doing back in the day, it was just as crazy as what Cooper Kupp did this year. Great list.
I was talking about the whole records thing earlier. I was surprised that they didn't force feed him the ball at the end of the game to get him that receiving yards record, which wouldn't have counted anyways because he had 17 games. Like all the records that these players are breaking in the 17th game that don't really, you have an extra game or whatever. But yeah, I think as you said, the round difference for Cooper Kupp really made the difference there.
Can we talk about?
Are you surprised, Will, that Najee only had 17 votes? Because I know.
Look, to me, it was MVP for the season, not just the championship weekend. And that's why I'm kind of shocked. Like, what name doesn't belong on this list but somehow got a vote? And no offense to Amon-Ra, looks like he's going to have a great career. There is no way he should be in the discussion for MVP of fantasy football this year. And so it's interesting, whoever thought that was an appropriate name. Boy, Lion fans will do anything to get one victory.
Yeah, I can see why, right? Because you probably could get him for free before he started doing his thing if you listen to the right people, I guess. But I can see why, because if you look at his game log for the games where you played him in a playoff run, I mean, it was actually really impressive. So I get why he pops up on there, but I mean, that's the people who voted for him obviously are the ones that had him for the playoff stretch.
Yeah,
right.
Extremely biased, It's because
the one guy who voted for him definitely. Amon-Ra definitely. Some people also just want to be different,
Yeah.
But let's move on to the Breakout Player of the Year award. So we also have Debo Samuel winning this commandingly with 507 votes. Coming in second place, we're just not even going to bother talking about this person who had 216 votes. Rashad Penny had 68 votes, and then we had Amon Ra, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp each had 2. KJ Osborne, Joe Burrow, and Mark Andrews had 1. So to me, I think the fans got this one right for sure. I think Debo is definitely by far and away the easy choice. I don't either of you disagree with Debo being the breakout player of the year.
No.
Nope. But like we said, I think the 216 votes
16.
for Cordell Patterson is
this guy right
is a
here,
little.
Cordell.
Oh, let's go. NFTs for
yeah,
days.
Will has sent me a nice football card here. Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, that's 216 too many votes for Cordell Patterson being breakout player of the year. So, but hey, just what a ride for Cordell Patterson though.
Yeah. You ain't lying about that.
Yeah,
What a ride. He probably got himself a pretty decent contract next year.
Yeah, he'll hang around for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll just be annoying. You won't want to own him. You won't want to be in a backfield where he's in there because you won't want to own the other guy.
You know he's going to Carolina.
Penny would. He's not going to Carolina. It's not happening. Penny with 68 votes didn't really surprise me. The only people are going to pick him are people who had him during their championship run. I think Amon Ra, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, they all, Amon Ra broke out, but he's still a rookie. He was Jeff's pick last week. And then Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, I guess. Jonathan Taylor kind of broke out. I feel like people kind of knew. KJ Osborne didn't really have an amazing season. Joe Burrow, I mean, he was doing good last year before the injuries. Mark Andrews, I do like that pick for breakout as he's emerged. It's a tight end 1 this year.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that group of people? Anyone who stands out that shouldn't be there? Anyone who's missing?
Well, Osborne probably shouldn't be there. He had an okay season, but not even in fantasy. I mean, I don't even know if he won you a game. Maybe with a couple of touchdowns.
No.
But I think it's interesting you said that, Zach, is Andrews. He becomes the first tight end to kind of break that echelon of the top 3 that's kind of dominated the fantasy tight end rankings the last few years, right? Because there was always that big drop off, right? You had the 1, 2, maybe 3 deep, and then it was just God knows what you were getting. So to me, it's interesting that Andrews got in there, and it'll be interesting to see if he continues to play at the way he was playing at the end of this season, especially next season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how, because that was without Lamar, so we'll have to see how that factors in once Lamar comes back. What were you going to say there, Zach?
Yeah, exactly what you were just saying. And he was great with all 3 quarterbacks. So
yeah,
and I think he has to be tight end 1 now. I think he usurps Travis Kelce as the number 1 guy going into fantasy 22. So for that reason, he definitely fits the breakout. And honestly, I'm surprised Taylor didn't get more votes for breakout, because really, like last year, it wasn't. He had a couple breakout games. He didn't really have a breakout season. Whereas this year, he took the league by storm. So that's other than that, though. I mean, it makes sense that Debo, looks like Debo's finally unlocked his full potential here this year. So that makes sense for the breakout.
Yeah, I mean, you give him breakout at positions: quarterback, wide receiver, and running back. If you're
right,
after that throw he made last week, I think he's by far and away the breakout player of the year, and I'm glad everyone else agreed with us. We're gonna move on to the Bust Award, the Todd Gurley Memorial Award. So we got no surprise. Number 1 and number 2, I think everyone's gonna agree on. Saquon Barkley had 431 votes, followed up by Allen Robinson, who had 292 votes. Mike Davis, 72. Christian McCaffrey, 6. That's injuries. So that one, to me, doesn't really count. Calvin Ridley, personal reasons, he had 2 votes. Julio had 2 votes. I do label Julio as a bust because there was injuries, but he wasn't involved as much as he could have been. And then with 1 vote, we had Tyreek Hill. I guess, yeah. Kenny Golladay for sure. Dalvin Cook got a vote, Will. Not sure your thoughts on that. And then Derrick Henry.
What?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
First of all, shame on the person saying Calvin Ridley. That man went out with mental issues. He should be exempt from this list.
Calvin Ridley.
He should be exempt from this list. Saquon, yeah. I mean, I had Saquon his rookie year. awesome, right? Next year came back at
Mm.
Saquon, and I was like, oh, whatever. And then it just every year he stings you, man. Just stay away from Saquon. Like that's a guy. If like we talk about, you shouldn't draft with injury in mind. You always should draft with injury in mind when you see Saquon Barkley on the board, or like any of these other guys. And
Mhm.
like, granted, he didn't get like fully injured this year, but it just seems like ever since those like injury stunts, he's just not the same player anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think Allen Robinson will bounce back off this list. Obviously, the guys who got hurt: Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill was hurt on and off, and that kind of lingered his speed. So I think those guys will be back. I'm not so sure about Saquon. I think he's I kind of want to hear what you guys have for Saquon dynasty wise, because to me he's almost becoming a buy low.
Yep.
Just with the fact that whoever has Saquon wants to get rid of Saquon, so you can get him real low value. You don't have to expect much from him, but if he has a couple good games to start next season, you could easily flip him off of that. So I have been looking into some trades for Saquon in Dynasty. What do you guys think about that? Are you a little intrigued by how low his value is right now, or are you just staying away?
Staying away. And it's not just look, it's him. And like all fantasy owners, right? You keep a guy on your roster a couple of years, and you use a spot for him or a high draft pick for him. You go sour on him, right? And then the real problem though is I don't trust the Giants. I have no faith now after the last couple of years of the Giants, what the hell they're doing. Um, Honestly, I think they're fourth place next year, and if they win 4 games, it'll be amazing. And maybe he's a mid-round pick with in full PPR, because if they're behind all the time, he is good out of the backfield if he's healthy. But if you think about the other running backs that played well at the end of the season that were either waiver wire pickups or lower draft picks than him, yeah, I'm ranking them higher. Honestly, if fifth round and him and Penny are on the board, I'm taking Penny. I'm taking Cordell Patterson. Be completely freaking honest with you. I'm not taking.
Oof.
I'm not taking.
No.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere near that.
No. Cordell Patterson's too far.
Yeah, I don't know. It starts getting murky there, but I agree with what you said, Zach, about him being such a buy low candidate at this point. If you're a team that just needs to maybe strengthen your bench, you got a bunch of pieces to move.
Would you trade a first round pick for him?
No.
Oh no. His value is so depressed right now. I think you could get him for like a second round pick and maybe a package of player and a second round pick. You could probably get Saquon easily.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in my keeper league, if you're listening to this, I am open to trades for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
If I can get a second and a player, all yours.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's move on to another disappointing award that these fans got absolutely wrong. I'm extremely disappointed. We're going to talk about the waiver wire pickup of the year. This was a landslide victory for a player who will go unnamed with 456 votes. Followed up by Hunter Renfrow with 283. Sony Michel had 68. Amon Ra had 7. And then we had some big names here who got nominated for waiver wire pickup of the year. You guys ready? Leonard Fournette. Okay, so maybe, he was a later round guy at least. Elijah Mitchell, waiver wire guy. Okay. Michael Pittman. Josh Jacobs. Mike Williams. Justin Herbert.
Justin
Yeah,
Herbert.
Josh
What?
Jacobs and Justin Herbert.
I don't know how Josh Jacobs got on there, but Josh Jacobs had a sneaky good year. But I'm not quite sure how there's no way if he's on waiver, man, I need an invite to that league for sure.
Yeah.
4-person leagues, I'm thinking. Something like that.
Yeah.
But what are your guys' thoughts for Cordell Patterson finishing number 1? I'll follow up with whatever you guys say. Zach, why don't you start us off here?
I think if Leonard Fournette never gets hurt, he wins this award. Because of how impressive he was, like all the numbers he was putting up in both the passing game and the ground game, and then that probably would have if he would have continued and Patterson fell off like he did, I think Leonard Fournette would have ran away with this. So I'm surprised he doesn't have. He only has one vote. I think Mitchell definitely deserves some more love, especially if you were someone like myself in like a 12-team league. You couldn't really drop him at a certain point, so you just kind of held on to him all year. I think it definitely paid off. Hunter Renfrow, that's a solid, but I hate to say it, man. I think they got it right. I think Cordell Patterson is really for the last time ever. That's it. So you never have to worry about it again, man. It's never gonna happen. You have to worry about 2022. It won't be Cordell Patterson. So let him have it this year.
Let's get your thoughts here, Will.
I think Sonny Michel deserved a little bit more of the votes because he was the third running back on the team, and he came in. And honestly, I actually think the Rams' running game was better when he played. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the playoffs with Akers back. But he was just those couple games. He was a dominant guy. I mean, he was putting up numbers that just. It makes you wonder why, you're probably like, wow, how did it? It's amazing that he wasn't playing earlier in the year. I mean, I know Henderson was good, but Michelle looked like he was the perfect running back for that offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, my pick was Hunter Renfrow. I think Hunter Renfrow should have won this award because he didn't absolutely shit the bed when it counted. He was there, he was scoring you points. You could start him with confidence all year. He only really had 2 disappointing weeks, which was week 6 against Denver, and then week 15 against Cleveland. But for me, that's my pick. I hate Cordell Patterson anyways, so he would never have been my pick. I put him in there with the hopes that my followers wouldn't vote for him. But here we are.
Yep.
Cordell Patterson has won the award as voted on by you guys, my followers, our fans. That's enough. Let's move on to Rookie of the Year.
Woohoo!
This one surprised me a little bit because I was not expecting it to be this big of a margin. Jamar Chase only had 107. Amon-Ra had 87. And then Jalen Waddle had 1 vote, as well as Devonta Smith. So
1 vote. Guy sets the rookie reception record in 16 games, like everyone else, like Anquan Bolden did, because he missed a game with COVID. So, and you tell me he gets 1 vote with bum Devonta Smith? Like, come on, man. Get out of it. This is the most. This is the most.
Devonta Smith said the Eagles.
Go ahead. I want to hear it. Yeah.
Eagles. Yeah.
He set the Eagles rookie receiving record. He played the first few drives of that game just to get that record. So, he's obviously got to get a vote.
I think this would have been an interesting vote. Had we had this vote before championship week, I'm not sure the margin, the gap is so big. But that game he put up in championship week, I think that just was like, 3 touchdowns?
I mean, Amon-Ra, 86. I think your logic checks out with Amon-Ra against 87 votes over. He got 86 more votes than Jalen Waddle. That's just absolute blasphemy.
Well, and it goes. I think the unfortunate thing for Miami is they don't get a lot of media attention. Right. Great talent on that team, but if you're watching Sunday football coverage and you're watching, especially when they started the way they started the season, I think everybody just kind of lost interest. And it's just.
And the offense is boring. There's no like sexiness to it.
Yeah.
It's just no one wants to watch 4-yard pass from Tua every play. So it's like the only you're right. We get no coverage. The only time we get coverage is if it's a bad thing. So poor Waddle, who had such a great rookie, right? He gets 1 vote. That's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think he should have got a few more. I don't even know how Devonta Smith got a vote. To be honest, he didn't help you win a championship. I wouldn't have even, his name would not have popped into my mind. I'm just really surprised because Najee Harris had a good championship week too. Finished as a top 5 running back in the year. I guess it's because Jamar Chase, as you guys said, 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. I bet you that did sway some people.
Definitely.
Let's get into the next award. We have the worst fantasy football coach. This one was fairly close, a lot closer than some of the other ones. We do have lots of nominations, though, so we're going to start from the top and work our way down. We have Urban Meyer, who won this award with 370 votes for all the blasphemy he put upon James Robinson. Matt Nagy came second with 205 votes. For every person he screwed up, he's the reason I don't like Cordell Patterson. And then Joe Judge, 152. And then from here, there's a big drop. We got Vic Fangio had 3 votes. We have Frank Reich, Mike McCarthy, Zach Taylor, Brian Flores, LaFleur. We have Mike Zimmer, Arthur Smith, and Mike Vrabel, who all got 1 vote each.
How is Vrabel on the list?
How is Zimmer on the list? You got every wide receiver is good. Dalvin Cook's good. The Alexander Madison is good.
Well, look, Zim should be in consideration for MVP, the coach of the year, because if you had guys playing against the Viking defense this year, it gave you points.
Yep, that's true. Yep.
But yeah, to me, I think the top order's right. Meyer, Nagy, and Judge for sure. They're all terrible. Judge kind of screwed up the whole Saquon thing. Matt Nagy's always screwing everything up. Allen Robinson.
Can we order a little trophy for this, since it's named after Urban Meyer, and send it to Urban Meyer and let him know that he won it? Because
yeah, he's gonna be like, "What if you ever won one of these trophies before, you loser?"
I could.
Go get me a White Claw.
Hey, but real quick, it's interesting is, Reich in Indianapolis, right? It's that last game. You talk about, if we're talking about who's on the hot seat next year already.
Yeah, it's Carson Wentz.
It's in the coaching staff, because this was supposed to be he was going to fix Wentz, and they looked horrible in that game. Yeah. They looked like they were Detroit.
Yeah, dark horse.
Like the Detroit Lions in that game, just horrible.
Yeah. They were a lot of people's dark horse going into the play. I mean, I kind of was hyping them up too, but then I forgot that Carson Wentz is the quarterback. And unless Nick Foles is behind him on the depth chart,
I just thought they were gonna.
I don't think Wentz is their quarterback next year. I don't think he goes into the season next year with Wentz as the quarterback.
He's just not. Just not a good. He's like a great value Ryan Tannehill, my opinion.
Yeah.
But I thought they would lean on Jonathan Taylor more than they did the last few weeks. And, he'd been carrying them all season, and they kind of went away from it. It stopped working, and that's really what cost them. Their defense can't allow that many points to Jacksonville anyways. They're supposed to have a top defense in the league. And, Trevor Lawrence goes out there and has his best game of the season.
Yeah.
I don't know how Zach Taylor got on this list. The Vikings
troll.
The Bengals were great. Mike McCarthy, I guess I could see, with Zeke not being great. Flores, I kind of get with the whole running back situation being screwed up there. Jalen Waddle was really the only one you could rely on. LaFleur, Aaron Jones, probably an Aaron Jones owner upset a little bit about that whole situation. I guess Zimmer, I don't understand that. Arthur Smith, I guess a Cordell Patterson fan. Be my guess. And then Mike Vrabel, I didn't really get either. I guess maybe because of the way, Julio wasn't good, and then, the running back situation took a few weeks to figure out. People might have been upset about that. People who listened to Jeff and I and picked up Adrian Peterson, maybe it was one of those people who was like, just a little upset about that. Someone listened to Jeff and I, probably a bad decision.
That's tough. Vrabel should have won the opposite of this trophy. The fact that he's like my vote for coach of the year in real life, because how he was able to go, they went like 11 and was it 12-5 or something like that? I don't know what their final record was, but losing all of their best players, including one of the best running backs in the NFL,
Yeah.
who still finished he still finished in the top 10 at the position,
Yeah.
Derrick
Yeah.
Henry, even with missing like 3/4
Mhm.
of the season. So it's like he lost that guy, AJ Brown was dealing with all his issues all year long. Julio is not, I mean, Westbrook Akita
Mhm.
is out there balling. So yeah, just shout out
Yeah,
Vrabel, man.
and we're gonna move on to the next award now, which is the best fantasy football coach, and Mike Vrabel did not receive any votes.
Awful. I'm
Awful.
done. Done with this.
Sean McVay, 352
What?
votes. Um, then we have Zach Taylor, 174 votes. Makes sense to me. Bruce Arians had 142. With the way the running back position was, it was playable after Fournette went down. Fournette did have a great start to the season. The wide receivers, you can always count on them. And then we start getting into the 2s and 1 votes. So 2 votes each. We had Kyle Shanahan and LaFleur. And then with 1 vote each, we had Bill Belichick, Brandon Staley, Ron Rivera, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski, Brian Flores received a vote, and Dan Campbell got a vote for best fantasy football coach of the year. That was probably someone who voted for Amon-Ra St. Brown in the other 2 uh, awards.
Wow.
To me, I think the top 3 probably interchangeable for me. I think my pick was actually Arians, just with the way he handled the running back situation. And you can always count on that, but maybe people put that a little more on Tom Brady than Bruce Arians. Sean McVay, he's been great. Sony Michel coming in being playable, but Sean McVay did kind of screw you over with the whole Darrell Henderson is healthy and then not playing him, and Sony Michel puts up 20 points in the week you probably didn't start him. Zach Taylor, he kept Joe Mixon good. Jamar Chase, obviously. T. Higgins was fantasy relevant. Tyler Boyd could play him occasionally. What are your guys' thoughts on these voting outcomes here for the John Madden Award?
Look, Sean Taylor, the fact that Cooper Cup did the numbers every week, that was coaching, right? And understanding that they were trying to take. I mean, we all know that everybody was game planning to take Cup away, and he still put up numbers, even after Robert Woods went down, right, and losing 2 of your running backs. So yeah, I think from a fantasy perspective of who got you points, if you had Ram players, yeah, it's definitely McVay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other than that one situation for me with Henderson, I agree. What are your thoughts, Zach?
Yeah. Zach Taylor. I'm kind of surprised Zach Taylor didn't get more.
Mm-hmm.
Just because if all 3 wide receivers pretty much relevant. Joe Mixon did his thing. Joe Burrow set the world on fire at the end of the season. So I mean, I get it, Sean McVay, right? Because Cooper Cup, what he did this year, that alone probably deserves it. But Bruce Arians, man, I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Now
See,
Tom Brady could be nominated for Fantasy Coach of the Year. Yeah, but,
Right.
Yeah, I don't
He's
know.
the real coach.
Yeah, and then to me, I don't know.
As we saw last week when he stayed in the game to make sure Gronk got his bonus.
Yeah. He told them, "Yeah, I'm going back out there so we can get Gronk his bonus," and then they left after that.
Wow.
I'm not really sure how Rivera got a vote. No one on Washington was carrying you. Stefanski, Nick Chubb was on and off all year. I guess if you had Dearness Johnson, maybe, and then Campbell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I guess. But other than that, I think it's pretty accurate for the most part.
Can we give a shout out to the
Let's
Raiders?
move on.
Though? Can we give a quick shout out to the Raiders coaching staff? Because that team could have easily just shit itself, honestly. And the fact that if you had Raider players because you thought at the start of the year, hey, these guys are going to produce, the fact that they didn't let that implode and was able to keep those players engaged and put up not great points, but decent points for you every week. I think I think we should give a shout out as fantasy fans to that whole Raider coaching staff for keeping it together as well as they did.
Right. Yep.
For
Asachia.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had Hunter Renfrow who finished 11 in PPR. And Josh Jacobs finished 11th at his position in PPR. So, I mean, I didn't even think about bringing up him. But now that you do, I definitely think he should have been probably fourth in this list with a few votes at least.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, his players were still fantasy relevant, and with all of the DUIs and the Henry Ruggs situation,
Yeah.
John Gruden, everything that
Yeah.
went on, and now they're in the playoffs. I think they win this week, just because I think that Bengals sitting everyone last week is going to backfire. The Raiders are hot. The Raiders want to win. So I think they will win this week. We will see. Sometimes resting players does work out. I'm still not a huge fan. I still think you got to get that in-game action. You don't want to get rusty, especially with a young team that doesn't have much playoff experience at all, really. Joe Burrow hasn't played an NFL playoff game. Neither has Chase. T. Higgins, they definitely need to come out swinging if they want a chance because the Raiders have shown fight all season. Let's move on to the 8th award. We have 2 more. We have the Comeback Player of the Year award we're going to talk about now, and the Draft Day Steal Comeback Player of the Year award. We have Joe Mixon won this award with 306 votes, followed up by Dak Prescott, who had 229 votes. I think the people who voted for that probably got confused with the whole fantasy comeback player of the year and actual comeback player of the year. Austin Eckler was close with Dak Prescott with 215, and then Joe Burrow had 4 votes. There's only 4 players to receive votes for this award. So yeah, I think Joe Mixon for sure, he was my pick. I 100% agree that he is first. I think Austin Eckler's got to be second, but as I said, I think people kind of got confused a little bit and voted for their actual comeback player of the year as opposed to the fantasy comeback player of the year, which is why Dak beat him out. But other than that, I think Mixon and Eckler getting top 2 votes makes sense to me. What do you guys think? I know Eckler was your pick, Will, so I'm assuming you agree with the Eckler part. Do you think Mixon should beat him out by almost 100 votes?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I think everybody feels bad for Mixon, right? I mean, you felt bad for him as he was hurt, and then to have him survive, and then there was that scare a couple weeks ago that maybe he was hurt again, and so I just think people were like, okay, the Dak thing, come on, y'all, it's
he really
people
hasn't
know
been
better
amazing.
than that. Come on, it's the problem is there in Dallas or here in Dallas where I'm at is that Tony Pollard honestly should be a RB1 for one of the NFL teams, and he's a great talent, and he's eating into Dak's playing time. It's just the truth, So yeah, I'm a little disappointed that Dak beat out Eckler. I don't even think Dak had a really good fantasy year for where he was drafted, to be honest with you. So
he finished 8th among quarterbacks. So as you said, for where he was drafted, not great. He definitely didn't outperform like Mixon and Eckler, and with all the weapons Dak had, I kind of expected it. I think he'll actually win Comeback Player of the Year over Joe Burrow, who's my actual pick for the award. But Zach, what are your thoughts on these votings for a fantasy Comeback Player of the Year?
Yeah, especially in the context of fantasy, Joe Mixon is the perfect winner. Where you got him, the value coming back off he was always a promising talent. Last year, derailed by the injury. But when he is on the field, he's a special player. And it seems like he kind of developed that sour taste in your mouth for when you drafting him, and he probably let you down. But this year, he probably was on a lot of competitive teams. So I think they got it
Joe,
right.
I'm sorry. I thought we said Zeke. I read that wrong. Yeah, Dak. I can see Dak after that ankle injury. I'm sorry. I thought I said Zeke. I just read it wrong.
Zeke would not be.
After that ankle
Zeke did
injury,
receive.
after that ankle injury, yeah, I could see why Dak came in second.
Yeah, I can see why he'd be up
me.
there because of the gruesome injury last year. And I think everyone kind of.
Now I got a question for you while we stay on the Joe Mixon situation. Are you guys comfortable taking Joe Mixon top 5 next year? Because every year going into the draft, people are scared of Joe Mixon. I want to know around where are you guys going to be targeting Joe Mixon? Top 5? You guys both said no to. Top 7, top 10? Where's your kind of range where you're comfortable with Joe Mixon? Because that's the reason he fell to the end of the first this year and into the second round in some leagues. So, Zach, why don't you start us off here?
In that league we're in together, I just traded Joe Mixon away for a second round pick and the Chiefs backfield. I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams kind of in a deal because I knew right away you got to capitalize. So this is dynasty, obviously, but got to capitalize on the value. But if you're talking redraft for next year, it would make the whole point of why we love him so much this year is because of where he was drafted last year, right? It's even if he has the same season and just slightly less, I think you're going to be disappointed to where the hype's going to be pre-draft. I think it's going to be a little too blown out of proportion. People are going to be like, this offense is so high-powered, which is probably true, but running backs are just, man, they make me so nervous as is. So, yeah, I guess if I have to answer your questions, I say top 7.
Okay,
would probably
that's kind of, I threw out top 7 because I think for me he's about 6 or 7. That's why I threw top 7 in there as opposed to top 10 right away. What are your thoughts, Will?
I think Mixon and all the running backs are going to get hurt by the realities in fantasy this year. We got Cooper Kupp going in the 4th or 5th round, Deebo Samuel's going in the 7th, 8th round, and other wide receivers. And I think everybody's under the impression that we're already a pass happy league. It's going to be more pass happy. I think the perception among fantasy guys is next year is going to be even about more 3 wideouts and quarterbacks moving the ball down the field. And so I think saying that is I think you're going to see more wide receivers move into the top 5. And I think you're going to see running backs dropping down because McCaffrey was hurt, Cook was hurt, Henry was hurt. I think there's going to be a little bit of hesitancy. Like, am I really going to let Cooper Kupp get out of the top 5 again for one of these running backs? And if that happens, now Mixon could be a second round pick. And so I think Mixon probably goes between 10 and 15 in next year's picks, just because I think everybody's going to try to overcorrect because what they saw with the wide receivers this year.
See, I agree. I think that's what everyone's going to do. But for me, seeing the fact Cooper Kupp was a 4th or 5th, you get Deebo in the 8th, to me, that says you got to load up on your running backs early still because there's value to be had at the wide receiver position later on in your drafts. So to me, that confirms the fact that you go RB heavy. Obviously, you're going to deal with the injuries and everything like that, but that's why you go running back heavy so those injuries don't affect your team. But Zach was touching on selling high on Joe Mixon. Another guy that you should try to be selling high on right now is James Conner. In that same league, I actually traded James Conner today. I got Jarvis Landry, Allen Robinson, a 3rd round this year and a 1st round next year in exchange for James Conner. So
robbery.
Wow.
The first offer I sent, hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. Because I sent him an offer that was, a lot. I thought it was Allen Robinson in return. I was going to get Allen Robinson. He was going to get Thielen in a 3rd. I thought, that's kind of fair. And then he responded with that as the counter. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Not even going to question it. So if you have James Conner anywhere, look to try and sell high on him if you're playing Dynasty.
Yep. Yeah, especially like the guy you traded with is one of those players that just hits the tab button at the top of like the total touchdown stat column, and he probably saw James Conner up there at the top of the list of guys who scored touchdowns. Like, got to get that guy. So
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
I'm going to leave that alone.
Definitely look to move James Conner because I'm not excited about him going into next year. Depending on where he ends up, it's not going to be great for him, even if he stays in Arizona. I think he'll have a worse year than he did this year. But let's move on to our last award, which is a draft day steal. No surprises here. We talked about this guy already. Cooper Kupp, 437 votes, followed closely by, or not even closely, half. Deebo Samuel had 211 votes. My pick for this award, because I was hyping him up all draft season, Tom Brady in the 10th round, 119 votes, so half the amount of votes Deebo had. And then you had Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette, got a vote each. I can see kind of maybe. And these next two, Devontae Adams had a vote. That don't really see that at all. And CD Lamb had a vote.
Well, that's a opposite. No,
That's a stretch.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's. I mean, how it's
yeah.
not.
It's good.
This is one of those things where it's like there is a wrong answer. You know, they always say there's no wrong. There's no wrong. Yes, no. If it's not
No,
Cooper
there is
Cup,
wrong
you
answer.
are the wrong person in this scenario. Because anybody you get in the fourth round that finishes what as I mean, if you take quarterbacks out of it because of how they're overpowered with their stats, he's by far the
Mhm.
number one fantasy player. He has like 100 more points than the next wide receiver or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
so
mean,
And
for
was pretty
sure.
healthy all year.
right,
And honestly, the way he plays, like honestly, if I had to do a redraft today for next year and I had the first pick, I would take Cup. Because the way he plays, I don't think he gets hurt. You know,
right,
he works the middle of the field. I mean, he works the whole field, but even in the middle of the field, like he goes down, right? He doesn't take any vicious hits. So, he's going to get you 16 games. Um, so yeah, he definitely was a steal this year. He won't be next year.
right.
No, he definitely won't be next year. I like that Debo got second place with 211
Mhm.
votes. Depending on your scoring, he had about 60 to 70 points less than Cooper Cup when you factor in the
Mhm.
rushing, and he was probably 4 or 5 rounds behind Cooper Cup. So you can maybe make the
Yeah.
argument that he does catapult Cooper Cup just based on the draft day value. Would you rather get the
Yeah.
wide receiver 2 in the 8th or 9th round, or the wide receiver 1 in the 4th or 5th round? You can make that argument. As I said, Tom Brady for me getting the QB what 3 in the 10th round when
Mhm.
he's like the 12th quarterback off the board. It's another great pick. There's definitely a lot of great picks. I like the Fournette pick. If he didn't get hurt, I think he would have may got a few more votes for
Mhm.
sure. And as I said, CD Lamb, I don't know, he would probably be closer to the bust list for me than the draft day steal list. um, but you
Yep.
guys have any final thoughts on any of these awards here?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm still upset about the Jalen Waddle one. But other than that, I think they got it right.
Yeah,
I'm
I think the
I'm
fans did a pretty good job.
I am upset about the Cordell Patterson one. I will be upset with my followers for the rest of eternity until Cordell Patterson
Next,
retires.
so next year, you got to think of an award that you can name after Cordell Patterson.
Yep.
Okay, I got it. It's perfect. He's gonna be a guy who starts off hot and then absolutely ruins your entire season.
Oh, that might be a good. That might be
That's
a good award.
that's
That's
about it.
exactly that's it. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly what he did. Everyone was like, "Oh, Cordell Patterson," and now Cordell
Mm.
Patterson's worth absolutely nothing, and he ruined your fantasy football championship hopes. If you traded for Cordell
Yeah.
Patterson when he was high, when I told you not to, I told you to sell high on Cordell Patterson. If you sold high on Cordell Patterson, amazing job. I appreciate you. You're amazing. But if you bought high on Cordell Patterson, you should probably watch this show more often, and you definitely would not have done that.
Hey, I got a suggestion for you. In the next couple of weeks, things start to slow down a little bit. We should have a whole hour of fantasy therapy. The guys that just torment you in your dreams, just the
Yep.
ones that no.
We can
Uh,
definitely do an episode on that as we get into
yep.
the off season. We can do that in the next few weeks for sure. We're gonna do dynasty diving. As I said, Zach and I are now in a dynasty league together. Thanks again for the invite to that league. So we'll do some dynasty help. Walking through trades, cuts, people you want to try and buy low on, people you want to try and buy high on. And then,
Rookies.
as the offseason progresses, we'll go rookies, we'll go early top
Mhm.
tens, we'll go to the draft. We'll go into free agency, telling you, as I am a news guy, I'll tell you, what the rumblings are, what to expect once these guys get signed, that kind of thing. We'll be going over that. So definitely you're going to want to make sure you guys keep watching this. We're not going to be stopping. We're going to continue out throughout the offseason. You're going to have nonstop content from us. So make sure you guys do subscribe to the Fantasy Football Network YouTube. You can check me out on Instagram. I'm at profootball.craze. You can check Ocean State at Ocean State FF on Instagram. We're also both on Twitter. You can check out media on Instagram, Facebook. at Media MPC. And definitely, guys, go check out their app. As you said, Will just threw the ats on the bottom of the screen, so you can definitely go check us all out. Thanks again for watching, guys, and thank you guys for joining. I am very sorry Jalen Waddle did not get more votes for Rookie of the Year.
Thanks for having me, man. This was an awesome award show. Yeah, I'm just gonna remember that 86 more votes. Amon-Ra Brown, St. Brown got.
Yeah,
remember that going into next season, guys. They're gonna regret that poll.
Well, Zach, thanks for having us, man. It was a great year. Looking forward to tracking coaching changes, offensive coordinator changes, player changes, talking dynasty, talking Hall of Fame, right? We talking pro football. Fantasy Hall of Fame. So it'll be a great off season here, and looking forward to talking with everybody next week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again, guys.